So this question came up on a Reddit thread. It was something I'd never really specifically thought about doing, but I thought, that's actually really interesting and something that I could see a lot of people using. So I thought I would show you guys what we came up with as I was helping this Reddit user figure out how to do this. So what they were looking for was they liked to schedule a reminder card to post every day at a particular time. So let's say first thing in the morning, so 7 a.m. But the thing that was specific about it was that they wanted that reminder card to be created with a specific checklist automatically attached to it. So there's a couple of things that we discovered as we did this. So here I am on my training business schedule freedom formula. So this is basically like the cockpit, the dashboard of a business, the dashboard of the day. So let's go ahead and go into our automations. And we're going to go into rules. And now, because this is a rule we want to schedule at a specific time every day, we're going to start with the scheduled type of automation instead of rules or due date. We're going to base it on the calendar day and time. So let's go ahead and create our automation. And like I said a minute ago, we want this to show up, let's say, at 7 a.m. every day. So we're going to add the trigger, and it's going to be every day. And actually, you could get even more specific. So I'm hoping that most of you, even though we know running a business is not 9 to 5, that you do at least give yourself a break on weekends. So we're going to actually go a little bit different from what we did on the Reddit thread and go ahead and do weekdays, because we don't want this to pop up at us over the weekend so that we can kind of take our rest time. So every weekday, and then we're going to pick our time. And so we're going to just say 7 a.m. And we're going to go ahead and hit that plus sign. And that's creating the trigger of when this card is going to get created. So this section right here is really all that you need to accomplish this. So we've got our trigger, and now we're going to come here and say that we're going to create a card. And it's important to note here, you do not want to use unique card, because as we're setting this up, we're going to be hard coding a card title to it. And if you still have the card from a previous day on your board, then unique will not trigger a new card to get created, but new will. Okay. You could see that kind of here as well. It kind of explains that, but you definitely want to make sure you're keeping it on new card. So we're going to go ahead and use like a daily hot list for our example here. So I'm going to go ahead and just call the card exactly that, daily hot list. And then you could, if you wanted to, give the card an automatic description here. I'm not going to in this example, but you just simply type it here and it would show up in the description section on that card every time. We're going to go ahead and choose the list that we want it to be in. So I want it to be in my daily tasks recurring list. And then if you wanted it to show up on a different board than the one that you're creating the automation, that's where you would do this here. You would choose a different board. But we're not going to do that here. You can also add specific labels to the card right there. It'll automatically appear on there. But we're focused here on the checklist. So that's where we're going to go ahead and choose this option. And this is where it's really, really important. Two things are really important here. Number one, you need to know exactly what the checklist name is called. It needs to be spelled exactly the same. So for example, I called this checklist to do. You need to make sure that you write it in the same way. So if you have put a dash in between, you need to put a dash in between. It's not going to be thinking, it's looking for an exact match. But if you added it this way, simply saying add the to-do checklist, it's not going to know what to do with that, because you need to specify which to-do checklist, because honestly, you might have more than one on this board, right? So we're going to go ahead and click on this little target button right here. And this is where we're going to tell it specifically which card on the board we want it to pull the to-do list from. This is what the name of the card that I created is, that already has the checklist on this board. So again, just like with the name of the checklist, it needs to be an exact match. And we're going to go ahead and say we want to add it to the card, just so you can see what this says, you can rename the checklist at this time, but you don't need to. So, oops, I should have known it would do that. Okay. So to do from hot list. Okay. And really that's all we need to do here. You could, if you wanted to, select, adding yourself to the card, not really necessary. If you want it to have a reminder, then you'd want to go ahead and set a due date on that card right then so that it would have a reminder, or you could add a reminder at that time, but we don't need to do that right now either. So we're going to go ahead and hit the plus sign. There's something though that is really, really important, because when we were trying to figure this out before, we did kind of run into an issue where even though it was set up and it looked like it should work perfectly, it was still having a hard time finding exactly which card. And I don't know if that's just kind of a quirk of Trello, that it just, was struggling for that. But one thing that I did discover is once you're in this view where you're looking at the actions list, you can actually click in here to where we typed in the name of the card, and we can scroll down to the exact card that I created and select it. And that seems to do the trick so that it knows exactly what it's looking for. So then we're going to go ahead and hit save. And I'm going to go in and find this card, see how it's enabled right here. And then this is another little kind of trick that maybe you don't know that you can do when it's a scheduled automation that you're working on, because we've talked about before and we'll keep talking about when you set up any sort of automation in your business, you always want to test it right at that moment to make sure that it's working properly, right? So when it's a scheduled situation, you have a couple of options, right? You could go in and schedule it for a specific time, 2 minutes after you created it, which will work. Or you can simply come in here and click this run now button, and this will run it right now. It's not going to show you that your trigger is working, but it's going to show you that your action is working. So let's go ahead and hit run now. You can see it's thinking and it's run the automation. So let's go ahead and see if it was successful. So what we should see is this daily hot list card that showed up exactly as we asked for it, right? We called it daily hot list. When we open it up, we see our to-do list, and this is the same items that we had on our original hot list checklist. Okay. One other quick little note is you want to make sure that the card that you are attempting to use as the linked card, so this example that we've set up, do not turn it into a template card, because if you turn it into a template card, it throws off the automation. It's not able to use it in that way. So just make sure that you've got your checklist set up in advance, that your card name and your checklist name are an exact match to how you wrote it on the example card, and that your example card is not a template card. Okay? If you found this video helpful, please make sure to like and subscribe. The online tools for your business do not need to be complicated or overwhelming. It's time to let it be easy.